Alright, welcome to another video on the 36 Ford project. We're kind of just continuing to plow through the bodywork and trying to repair dents and a few rust holes here and there. And this last couple of weeks I've been fitting on all of the tins, all the fenders and the doors and the step boards and all of that kind of stuff, and trying to see how it fits. Trying to see what needs to be massaged, what needs to be bent and tweaked. And I've been spending a little bit of time today on the front fenders and the front grille. I put the radiator on to see if it matched up with all the holes and whatnot. It's coming together. I've got a little bit more welding to do. When you put on an independent front suspension on these, take out the solid axle, you have to cut some of those inner aprons, fender aprons. You have to cut through the vented grille. And so I want to finish that up. Right now it looks kind of like a hack job, and I want to do a little bit of finish work on that to make it look a little better. And then I've got to do a bunch of tweaking on the front. The grille doesn't fit 100% great with the front fenders. A little wonky, a little bit of curvature going on. So I'm going to spend some time with the hammer and dolly and get those lined up. I'm also going to tuck these front fenders. The lip, that front lip, that has a really big 3/4 inch roll, and if you turn too sharp it can grab the tire, so we're going to cut that roll and bend it back and re-weld it, try to gain a little bit of space. But yeah, we're continuing to plug forward with this project. Alright, so what I'm working on tonight is we are now starting to fit all of the fenders and running boards and front clip onto the car, and matching all the seams and all the body lines, all the fit and finish. And that requires bending around some of the metal a little bit, doing the metal fabrication before we put on the filler. What's happening now is the bolts that go through the fender up into the body have kind of stretched out these bolt holes, and it leaves a little bit of a gap between the fender and the body. So I'm addressing that, tapping them back up, and we'll reinforce those a little bit. And I'll probably add some extra bolt holes in between each one so that they're not so stressed. So what we're working on is this edge of this step board. It's pretty wonky. It's an original step board. It's been used for decades. People step on it all the time. And it's probably hit a few things, so it was pretty wavy. And I'm trying to get a straight edge on that. And we're getting close. Got about 80% of it done. And the way you do it is, if you have a big wow, which we had a couple of dents out, and this is kind of dented in, pretty good, is you want to hammer it back into place. And if you have a wow right here, you're going to put the hammer right on the crown of that wow, but you want to put a counterweight off to the side. So if it runs like this, you'll put this on the side. If you were to hammer directly onto it, it would stretch it even further. But you also want to add a heat first. What the heat does is, if you heat the crown, it expands it even more. And then when you hammer that in and bend it back to where you want it, when you cool it, not only did you hammer it down flat, but when you cool it, it'll go in even a little bit further. Also, the heat makes it a little bit more pliable. But we're getting close. I've got a pretty straight line on it now. Got a little bit of wonkiness right through here. Okay, so you can see the one on the left here is the one I was working on. I'm almost done with it. This one I haven't started the body work yet. And you can see the difference. This one here on the left is nearly perfect. It's just about where I want it. This is what I started with. You can see how that line all the way down is really wavy and curvy. It's been hit before. It's, you know, gotten into running over stuff, people kicking it, whatever. Really wavy. And with enough patience and some heat and some hammer and dolly work, you can get it straight enough to look good. Alright, right here you can see this juts out pretty good. This whole thing is wavy. I started back here and I'm straightening it up. Using heat, hammer it, cool it down. Okay, as you can see here, it's starting to come together. I started back here, and I don't know if you can see by this camera angle, but it's becoming much straighter for the first half. It starts to get wonky about halfway. That's what I'm working on now. So we're going to do a first pass all the way back to get it as straight as I can. Then we'll go back over it and fine detail. Alright, so after using heat and a little persuasion, both these lines are super straight, nearly perfect. Hardly any wows to it. And these are going to be covered by a thick rubber mat because they're step sides and they're covered in rubber. So that will also hide any slight imperfections. But there's no waviness, it's pretty much a straight line. I don't know if this camera's doing it justice, but yeah, we got the running boards just about wrapped up. Okay, as you can see, I'm putting the fenders on. And I'm doing that so I can put the inner structure bracing in the back before I weld some of the cracks and do some of the body work. I want to make sure that the curve on that back fender is right and that it matches up with the bracing on the inside. Also, I'm probably going to double up on some of these bolts. You can see the bolts that hold that fender on. I'm probably going to put extra bolts in between each one because if you put in too much torque on these, it's causing this gap here not to be perfectly flush. It goes tight where the bolt is and kind of comes down and goes tight again. I've hammered it all, you know, round. It's good now, but if I put too much torque on, it's going to take it out of round. And so I think I'm going to double up on some of these bolts to make sure. Either that or we'll use some fender welting. I kind of didn't want to use fender welting because you can see it most of the time, but we'll see. We'll see what we decide. You can see here that I'm going to, before I weld this, you can see how loose this is. It's because there's a couple of cracks in the bead around the bottom. But before I weld those, I want to make sure they're straight. So we'll pull it out, do a little bit of body work, put the brace in, and then we'll weld it. Alright, we're working on this edge. This lip right here runs on the outside of the grill, and it was hit right here and munched in, broke the hole there. And so I'm trying to get this line here to straighten up. And it's coming along. So you have to keep adding some heat and some persuasion, we'll get it. And then I have to decide on this angle here. It was hit up under the grill, and so this is all kind of munched a little bit, and I gotta bring it back out to the original angle. Alright, we're working on this inner fender that was cut for the suspension arm to fit through. And we're just trying to make it look a little bit prettier. I'm gonna patch in a piece in this corner so it's not so jagged looking. Tied in all these louvers which were hanging out into space and had no strength to them. This will all get sanded down and then painted, and it'll look a lot better than it did. That's what we're working on. rear fender fixed up to where I want it. Looks a little more finished and a little cleaner than the hack job on this side. So we will do the same thing on this side next.